In the sprawling, multi-level spaceport cafeteria on the human colony planet of Novoterra, the hum of interstellar commerce and cultural exchange filled the air. Dr. Alex Mercer, a tall and thoughtful human xenobiologist, navigated through the crowd with a tray of food, his gaze curious and attentive. He had been stationed here to study and interact with various alien species, documenting their habits and cultures to enhance human understanding and cooperation. Alex found an open table near a large viewing window overlooking the docking bays where ships of all sizes glittered against the backdrop of deep space. As he settled down, his eyes caught sight of an unusual figure seated alone 2 tables away. A beautiful alien with striking blue skin and luminescent eyes, her presence commanding yet serene amidst the bustling environment. Intrigued, Alex remembered the briefing on her species, the Lyrians, known for their enigmatic nature and rare visits to human territories. He decided to approach her, a decision driven by both professional curiosity and a personal fascination. With a polite smile, Alex walked over, carrying an extra cookie from his tray. "Hello there," Alex greeted, stopping at her table with a respectful nod. "I'm Dr. Alex Mercer. I couldn't help but notice that you're a Lyrian. We don't see many of your kind here. May I join you?" The alien, whose name was Lyra, looked up with a hint of surprise in her bright green eyes. "You may, Dr. Mercer," she replied in a melodic voice that resonated slightly with an unidentifiable harmony. "I am Lyra. Your observance is correct. We Lyrians seldom travel this far from our systems." Alex sat down, placing the cookie in front of her. "I thought perhaps you might enjoy trying something from our cuisine. This is a simple human delicacy, a cookie. Harmless to us, but I hope it's agreeable to your diet." Lyra tilted her head, eyeing the cookie curiously. "I am familiar with your human foods from the database, but I have never consumed one." "It is agreeable to try," she said, her hand moving gracefully to pick up the cookie. As Lyra tasted the cookie, Alex watched her reaction closely, hoping it would be a pleasant one. "So, what brings a Lyrian to Novoterra?" he asked, eager to learn more about her and perhaps foster a dialogue that could lead to deeper interspecies understanding. "I am here to study human architecture," Lyra explained after a moment, her voice calm despite the growing rush of emotions she felt from the cookie's effects, which were yet unknown to Alex. "Your structures are quite fascinating, combining functionality with aesthetic in ways that Lyrian constructions do not." "That's fascinating," Alex replied, genuinely interested. "Architecture is a passion of mine as well. Maybe you could tell me about Lyrian structures sometime. We can exchange knowledge." Before Alex could continue, Lyra's demeanor shifted. The cookie, laced unintentionally with ingredients that acted as mild stimulants for Lyrians, began to affect her. Her eyes widened, and a flush spread across her blue cheeks. "Dr. Mercer," Lyra interrupted, her voice tense, "I am feeling unusual effects from this cookie. Is this normal?" Realizing something was wrong, Alex's concern grew. "No, that's not normal at all. Let me help you. We should get you to our medical center to make sure you're okay." As Lyra nodded in agreement, her movements slightly erratic, Alex quickly stood, supporting her by her arm. "I'm sorry for this unexpected reaction," he said, filled with worry as they made their way out of the cafeteria, the eyes of many patrons following them. Their exit marked the beginning of an unforeseen adventure, one that would test the boundaries of human and alien interaction under the most unexpected circumstances. As they left the cafeteria behind, the vastness of space loomed outside, a reminder of the infinite possibilities and challenges that lay ahead. As they hurried towards the medical center, Alex's mind raced with concerns about the unforeseen reaction Lyra had experienced. The bustling corridors of Novoterra's spaceport, usually a place of vibrant commerce and social interactions, felt oppressively narrow as he guided the visibly distressed Lyrian through the crowd. "Please, just hold on, Lyra. We're almost there," Alex reassured her, sensing her increasing discomfort. Lyra, struggling to maintain her composure, nodded slightly, her glowing eyes darting around, taking in the sea of unfamiliar faces. The medical center was a state-of-the-art facility designed to cater to the diverse biological needs of countless species. As they entered, Dr. Lena Reynolds, a lead medical officer known for her expertise in xenobiology, noticed them immediately. Her sharp eyes quickly assessed the situation. "Alex, what happened?" Dr. Reynolds asked, approaching swiftly with a medical scanner in hand. "It's the cookie I gave her," Alex explained, his voice tinged with regret. "I thought it was safe. Lyra, this is Dr. Reynolds. She's the best we have." Lyra managed a weak smile, even as her body began to react more violently. Dr. Reynolds ran the scanner over her, frowning at the readings that flashed on the screen. It's reacting with her biochemistry. Looks like some sort of hyperstimulant effect. We need to flush her system immediately, Dr. Reynolds declared, directing them towards an isolation room equipped with advanced medical technology. Inside the room, Lyra was placed on a diagnostic bed, her body now shimmering with a bioluminescent glow, a natural defense mechanism. Alex watched anxiously as Dr. Reynolds prepared a detoxifying serum. This should help, but I need to warn you, the effects might be intense, Dr. Reynolds informed them as she administered the serum through a dermal patch. Lyra's breathing slowed and her glow began to subside. Alex, relieved, took a seat beside her. I am really sorry about this. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, he apologized. Lyra turned to look at him, her expression softening. It is not your fault, Alex. You could not have known. I am grateful for your help. As the serum worked, Lyra's symptoms eased, but the incident had already sparked a flurry of activity outside the isolation room. Word of the incident spread quickly, catching the attention of station security and other curious onlookers. The presence of a distressed Lyrian, a rare visitor, caused a stir among the community, leading to rumors and speculations. Meanwhile, Alex received a call from his superior, Director Sarah Cole, who had been alerted to the situation. Alex, I need a full report on this, and ensure Dr. Reynolds documents everything. We can't afford an incident, especially not with a Lyrian, she instructed firmly. Yes, Director, I'll handle it, Alex responded, aware of the gravity of the situation. Once Lyra was stable, Alex escorted her out of the medical center, only to be met by a security team. The head of security, a stern man named Captain Marks, stepped forward. Dr. Mercer, we need to speak with Miss Lyra about the incident. Protocol dictates we understand exactly what happened, Captain Marks stated, his tone indicating it was not a request, but a requirement. Lyra, still recovering, nodded in agreement. Alex felt a surge of protectiveness, but knew cooperation was the best path forward. They moved to a secure conference room where Lyra explained her experience in detail, her voice steady but her eyes haunted by the ordeal. As the meeting concluded, Alex and Lyra found themselves at the heart of a developing storm, their actions and decisions from here on not only affecting their own futures, but potentially the delicate balance of interspecies relations on Novoterra. After the exhaustive debriefing with Captain Marks and the security team, Alex and Lyra left the conference room only to be greeted by a corridor bustling with whispering onlookers and flashing media drones. The news of Lyra's adverse reaction to a human cookie and the subsequent medical emergency had quickly morphed into a spectacle. Alex, feeling a growing discomfort with the invasive attention Lyra was receiving, pulled her aside into a quieter junction. Listen, Lyra, I think it's best if we lay low for a bit, Alex suggested, scanning the area for a less conspicuous route. The attention isn't just a nuisance. It could escalate into something neither of us wants. Lyra, still slightly pale but regaining her composure, nodded in agreement. Your concern is justified, Alex. This spectacle could hinder my mission and studies here. Opting for discretion, they took a detour through the service corridors of the spaceport, a less frequented part of the station where the hum of the main thoroughfares was replaced by the rhythmic pulse of machinery and the occasional echo of distant footsteps. As they moved, Alex's communicator buzzed. An incoming message from Dr. Reynolds, marked urgent. He glanced at the screen, his brow furrowing. Lena says the substance in the cookie has unknown long-term effects. We need to run more tests to ensure there's no lasting harm. Lyra stopped, her gaze intense. I appreciate your concern, Alex, but I cannot afford to be a subject of human medical inquiries indefinitely. My people are wary of such intrusions. Understanding her predicament, Alex pocketed his communicator. Okay, let's get you somewhere safe first. We can figure out the rest later. Their path led them to an old maintenance hangar, seldom used and mostly forgotten, a relic from the early days of the spaceport. Inside, the vast, shadowy interior offered a temporary sanctuary. Alex knew a few crew members who used these hangars as shortcuts or for unofficial breaks. He contacted a trusted friend, Milo, a technician with access to various station resources. Milo arrived quickly, his expression a mix of curiosity and concern. Alex, what's this I hear about you harboring a Lyrian fugitive? He joked lightly, but his eyes were sharp, assessing Lyra's condition. Not a fugitive, just avoiding unnecessary drama, Alex replied, introducing Lyra. Milo, she needs a place to stay off the grid. Can you help? Milo nodded, his demeanor turning serious. I know just the spot. Follow me. He led them through a series of labyrinthine tunnels until they arrived at a small, unmarked access door. Inside was a compact living space equipped with basic amenities, a safe house of sorts used occasionally for situations requiring discretion. "This will do," Lyra said, examining her new quarters with a reserved appreciation. "Thank you, Milo." "Anything for Alex," Milo replied, clapping Alex on the shoulder. "I'll leave you too. Just buzz when you need to get out, or if you need anything." Once Milo departed, Alex turned to Lyra. "We should be safe here for the time being. I'll stay nearby in case you need anything. We need to figure out our next steps." Lyra sat down, her alien elegance stark against the utilitarian backdrop of the safe house. "Alex, your world is complex. The incident today has shown me how precarious our position is here." "Yeah, it's not just about us anymore," Alex admitted, feeling the weight of the situation. "This could affect human-Lyrian relations, could even escalate if we're not careful." "We must be cautious indeed," Lyra agreed, her voice steady despite the chaos of the day. "But we also need to clear up this misunderstanding about the cookie and its effects. My people must not see this as an act of aggression." Alex nodded, his resolve hardening. "Then we'll clear it up. Together." As they settled into the makeshift sanctuary, outside the safe house, the station continued its restless pace, unaware of the burgeoning alliance forming in its hidden shadows. An alliance that could either bridge their worlds or break them apart. Hidden within the utilitarian confines of the safe house, Alex and Lyra delved into a hasty research effort. They aimed to understand the chemical reaction that had caused such an adverse effect on Lyra, hopeful that this knowledge could mitigate any potential diplomatic fallout. Alex set up a makeshift lab with equipment Milo had discreetly brought, turning the space into a hub of activity. As they worked, the truth about the cookie's ingredients began to unfold. It seems the cookie contained trace amounts of xylithorin, a compound naturally found in some human food crops but psychoactive for Lyrians, Alex explained, poring over the data on his tablet. Lyra, looking over his shoulder, nodded gravely. In Lyrian culture, substances that alter mind or body are considered sacred, used only in significant rites. An accidental exposure could be seen as a violation or a form of disrespect. "This explains the reaction and the spectacle," Alex muttered, frustration evident in his tone. "We need to communicate this to both our governments before things escalate further." Their work was interrupted by a soft chime at the door. Cautiously, Alex peered through the security monitor to see a figure he didn't recognize. A young woman with strikingly sharp features and a gaze that seemed to cut through the dim lighting of the corridor. "Who is it?" Alex asked through the comm. "Name's Alara," the woman replied, her voice confident, even charming. "I'm here because you need help, and I'm offering it." Skeptical yet intrigued, Alex opened the door. "What kind of help?" he inquired as Alara stepped into the light, revealing the insignia of the Novoterra Free Traders, a network known for their neutrality in political affairs. "Information," Alara said, glancing towards Lyra before focusing back on Alex. "You're trying to stop a potential interspecies incident, right? My contacts saw your little incident at the cafeteria. We believe in free flow of information, and it seems you need it to clear up this mess." Lyra, who had remained silent, now stepped forward. "What do you want in return?" she asked, her voice steady despite the clear suspicion in her eyes. "Simple," Alara smiled slightly. "When you clear this up, you owe us a favor, nothing more. We believe keeping peace is beneficial for all parties involved." After a brief discussion, Alex and Lyra agreed to Alara's terms. The trader provided them with communications logs from the spaceport that showed a heightened interest in the incident from several suspicious sources, suggesting that not everyone wanted the issue resolved peacefully. Armed with this new information, Alex turned to Lyra. "We need to be careful who we trust. This is more than just a misunderstanding. There are players here who'd benefit from a conflict between our people." Lyra nodded, her expression resolute. "Let's prepare a detailed report with our findings and the medical data. We'll need to present it to both our governments. Transparency might be our best defense against those who seek to manipulate this situation for their own gain." As they worked into the night, compiling their findings into a comprehensive report, Alex couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility. This was no longer just about a simple allergic reaction to a human cookie, but a potential spark that could ignite tensions across species lines. Meanwhile, Alara departed as silently as she had arrived, her motives wrapped in mystery, but her assistance proving invaluable. In the shadows of the station's less frequented corridors, whispers of her visit began to stir among those who monitored the comings and goings of the spaceport's more secretive visitors. Alex and Lyra knew that the next steps they took could mean the difference between peace and conflict. As dawn approached, casting a pale light through the small window of the safe house, they prepared to step back into the fray, armed with truth and a tentative new alliance. In the early hours of a muted Novoterra morning, Alex and Lyra, having spent the night piecing together their findings, finally completed their comprehensive report. The document detailed the chemical analysis of the cookie, the unintended psychoactive effects on Lyra, and highlighted the potential misuse of the incident by entities wanting to stir interspecies conflict. With their report in hand, they decided the next step was to present their findings directly to the leaders of the Novoterra colony and, if possible, to Lyrian representatives. Alex contacted Director Sarah Cole to arrange a meeting, using his credentials as a xenobiologist to underline the urgency and sensitivity of the situation. Director Cole, recognizing the delicacy of the matter, agreed to facilitate a meeting. She arranged for a neutral location within the governmental complex, a place equipped with security and privacy for delicate diplomatic engagements. As Alex and Lyra made their way to the meeting, the bustling streets of Novoterra felt overwhelmingly normal, a stark contrast to the undercurrent of tension they were navigating. Upon arriving, they were greeted by Director Cole, who ushered them into a conference room. Representatives from various human departments were present, and via a secure video link, several Lyrian officials, including a high-ranking diplomat, joined the meeting. "Thank you for coming on such short notice," Director Cole began, nodding to both the human and Lyrian parties. "Dr. Mercer has some important findings that could prevent a potential crisis between our species." Alex stepped forward, clearing his throat as he prepared to present. "Thank you, Director. What began as a simple cultural exchange," he said, gesturing to Lyra, "has unveiled a serious misunderstanding that has the potential for significant diplomatic repercussions." He proceeded to explain the scientific details, carefully laying out the data they had collected. Lyra then took the floor, speaking eloquently about the cultural significance of psychoactive substances in Lyrian society and the potential misinterpretations that could arise from such incidents. The Lyrian diplomat, a stern but fair individual named Varric, listened intently. After the presentation, he spoke. "This is a serious matter. The misuse of such an incident could indeed strain our relations. We appreciate your thorough investigation and transparency. However, just as the meeting seemed to be leading towards a mutual understanding, an aide rushed in, whispering urgently to Director Cole. Her expression changed rapidly, becoming grave. She turned to the assembly. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but we've just received word of an unauthorized leak concerning this incident. It appears someone has twisted the facts and is spreading misinformation, claiming that the human government deliberately poisoned a Lyrian." The room erupted in murmurs, and the tension skyrocketed. Varric's expression hardened. "This complicates matters. We must act quickly to control the narrative and reaffirm our commitment to peace." Alex and Lyra exchanged a glance, realizing the stakes had just been raised. Director Cole called for calm. "We have the truth on our side. Let's work together to issue a joint statement clarifying the facts and condemning the spread of false information." The remainder of the meeting was spent drafting this joint statement with both human and Lyrian representatives contributing. As they worked, Alex felt a mix of frustration and hope. The path to maintaining peace was fraught with challenges, but with every word they wrote, they were weaving a stronger bond between their peoples. Once the statement was finalized, Alex and Lyra left the governmental complex, the weight of their responsibility hanging heavy between them. The battle for peace was far from over, but they had made significant progress. As they walked back through the streets of Novoterra, the city seemed a little less normal, a little more charged with the promise and peril of the future. After the joint statement was released, a fragile calm settled over Novoterra. However, the underlying tensions caused by the misinformation campaign had not fully dissipated. Alex and Lyra continued to work together, carefully monitoring the situation while planning their next steps to solidify the fragile peace. Their efforts were interrupted by a sudden and unexpected summons from the Lyrian High Council, demanding that Lyra return to her home planet immediately for consultation. The message was terse and provided no details, but the implications were clear. The situation was more severe than they had hoped. Before her departure, Lyra met with Alex in a quiet garden within the colony, a place they had found solace in during the chaotic days. Alex, I must go, but I fear my people are preparing for the worst. The mistrust has deepened, and there are factions within the council who see this incident as proof that humans are not to be trusted, Lyra confided, her voice laced with worry. Alex looked at her, frustration and concern etching his features. We've come so far, Lyra. Isn't there something we can do to convince them otherwise? Lyra paused, considering. There is one possibility, she finally said. An ancient treaty between humans and Lyrians exists, long forgotten by most. It speaks of peace and mutual understanding, a bond forged centuries ago that predates current hostilities. If we could find it and present it to the council, it might remind them of the long history of cooperation that once existed between our races. Determined, Alex nodded. Then let's find it. Do you know where we could start looking? My people keep extensive archives, but accessing them might be difficult now, Lyra explained. However, there is a historical site on a neutral planet, old and mostly forgotten, where copies of such documents were stored for safekeeping. It's a long shot, but it might be our best chance. With a plan in mind, Alex and Lyra quickly arranged for a discreet journey to the neutral planet, knowing that the success of their mission could mean the difference between peace and war. They traveled incognito, avoiding any attention, reaching the planet after a tense and uneventful journey. The historical site was an ancient library, buried deep underground, filled with relics and documents from a bygone era of galactic diplomacy. The air was thick with dust and the scent of old paper. They searched tirelessly, navigating through crumbling hallways and vast chambers filled with artifacts. Finally, in a dimly lit room, Alex discovered a metallic case engraved with symbols of peace and alliance. Inside, protected by ancient preservation fields, lay the treaty they were seeking. It was more than a document. It was a symbol of the possibility of unity and harmony. With the treaty in hand, they prepared to return to Lyra's home planet. However, as they made their way back to their ship, they were ambushed by a group of militants opposed to peace. The militants, driven by a hardline faction within the Lyrian government, sought to seize the treaty and destroy it, believing that war with humans was inevitable. A tense standoff ensued, but Alex and Lyra managed to negotiate their way out, leveraging the very ideals of the treaty they had just recovered. With the militants hesitating, they made a swift escape, leaving the aggressors with words of peace that sowed seeds of doubt among them. Returning to Lyra's planet with the ancient treaty, they were met with a mix of skepticism and awe. Presenting the document to the High Council, they argued passionately for a revival of the ancient alliance, highlighting the mutual benefits of peace and cooperation. As the council deliberated, Alex and Lyra waited anxiously, knowing that their efforts had sparked a crucial debate that would determine the future of human-Lyrian relations. The High Council's chamber on Lyra's homeworld was a cavernous space, its walls inscribed with the history of the Lyrian people, a civilization that had thrived on diplomacy, yet was prepared for war. As Alex and Lyra presented the ancient treaty, they could feel the weight of centuries of tradition and skepticism pressing down upon them. The revelation of the treaty sparked intense debates among the council members. While some viewed the document as a sign of hope, others saw it as an irrelevant relic, unfit to dictate current interstellar policies. The discussions were heated, with voices raised in passionate argument on both sides. Outside the council chamber, tensions were escalating. News of the treaty's discovery had spread, polarizing the populace. Some rallied for peace, inspired by the possibility of renewing old alliances, while others, fueled by the recent propaganda, prepared for conflict, believing it the only way to ensure the sovereignty of their species. Amidst the political turmoil, a militant faction that had opposed Alex and Lyra's mission mobilized, intending to seize control of the government to prevent any move toward peace. Their first act was to launch a series of strikes against human outposts near Lyrian territory, aiming to force a military response that would derail any talks of diplomacy. Alerted to the imminent threat, Alex and Lyra hurriedly left the council session, determined to prevent the conflict from escalating. They contacted Director Cole and warned her of the situation, urging restraint and a measured response to avoid full-scale war. Director Cole, understanding the delicacy of the situation, coordinated with her advisors to initiate a defensive stance, avoiding aggressive retaliation. She also opened a back-channel communication with the Lyrian peace advocates, hoping to strengthen their position and stabilize the situation. Meanwhile, on the front lines, the situation deteriorated. The human outposts, caught off guard by the sudden attacks, suffered significant damage. The outpost commanders, pressured by their need to protect their people, struggled to hold back from returning fire. In a desperate bid to turn the tide, Alex and Lyra decided to take a more direct approach. They negotiated a meeting with the leaders of the militant faction, using the ancient treaty as a symbol of what could be lost to needless conflict. The meeting was tense, held on neutral ground with both parties warily eyeing each other. Alex spoke first, his voice firm yet conciliatory. This treaty isn't just a piece of history, it's a testament to what our ancestors believed could be achieved through cooperation. We are at a crossroads where we can choose to honor that belief or destroy any chance of peace. Lyra, standing beside him, addressed her people in their native tongue, her words eloquent and moving. We have seen what war brings: destruction, sorrow, and the loss of what makes us proud as Lyrians. With this treaty, we have a chance to forge a different path, one that leads to prosperity and peace for all. The militants, hardened by years of distrust, listened with a mixture of skepticism and intrigue. Their leader, a hardened veteran of many conflicts, eyed the treaty warily. "And if we cease fire, what guarantees do we have that humans will not betray us?" Alex responded, "None but our word and actions. Peace is a leap of faith, but it is a leap worth taking." The discussions continued for hours, with negotiations teetering on the edge of collapse several times. However, the combined diplomatic efforts of Alex, Lyra, and the peace faction within the Lyrian Council gradually began to wear down the militants' resolve. As dawn broke over the negotiation site, a provisional ceasefire was agreed upon. It was fragile, tentative, and filled with potential pitfalls, but it was a start. Returning to the council chamber, Alex and Lyra watched as the news of the ceasefire was greeted with relief and cautious optimism. The council, influenced by the outcome of the negotiations, voted to uphold the principles of the ancient treaty, committing to a renewed dialogue with humanity. As the chamber erupted in a mix of applause and dissent, Alex and Lyra shared a weary but hopeful look. They had averted a war, at least for now, and opened a new chapter in human-Lyrian relations, one filled with the promise of peace. As Novoterra buzzed with the cautious optimism of newly established peace talks, Alex and Lyra took their roles as interspecies diplomats with serious commitment. They had become the symbols of hope for a possible harmonious future, and their every step was watched by both hopeful allies and skeptical critics. In the wake of the ceasefire, the human and Lyrian governments moved swiftly to solidify the fragile peace. A series of diplomatic meetings were scheduled to discuss the terms of a formal peace treaty, using the ancient document as a foundation. These discussions were complex and fraught with historical grievances, but the mutual fear of returning to the brink of war lent a pragmatic tone to the negotiations. Alex was deeply involved in drafting the new treaty, applying his knowledge of Lyrian culture and human political dynamics to bridge understanding between the two sides. Lyra, with her diplomatic grace and deep understanding of her people's perspectives, worked tirelessly to reassure her leaders and the public that peace with humans was not only desirable, but essential for their future prosperity. During this time, Alex and Lyra organized a landmark event on Novoterra, a cultural exchange festival featuring human and Lyrian art, music, food, and technology. The festival was designed to foster grassroots connections between the individuals of both species, moving the focus from the high-level political negotiations to personal interactions. The event was a vibrant affair, with colorful stalls displaying human and Lyrian crafts side by side, music performances that blended styles from both cultures, and food stalls offering tastes of each other's cuisines, carefully prepared to suit all biological needs. The highlight was a joint performance by human and Lyrian musicians, which ended with a powerful rendition of a new anthem symbolizing their hopeful future. Despite the success of the festival, there were incidents of protest and distrust from factions within both species who were not ready to embrace this new relationship. However, the majority of attendees responded with enthusiasm, and the media coverage highlighted the positive outcomes, helping to sway public opinion towards support for the peace process. As the festival concluded, Alex and Lyra stood together on the stage, looking out over the crowd of mixed species cheering for the performers. It was a moment of triumph, not just for their diplomatic efforts, but for the possibility of unity and diversity. The final peace treaty was signed several weeks later in a grand ceremony broadcast across both human and Lyrian territories. The treaty outlined not only the cessation of hostilities, but also established several joint ventures, including a combined research initiative and a mixed-species military task force designed to maintain peace and respond to non-human threats. Alex and Lyra, once mere representatives of their species, had now become ambassadors of a combined future. As they stood together, watching the signatures being etched onto the historic document, they knew the real work was just beginning. The treaty was a promise, and fulfilling that promise would require continuous effort and mutual understanding. The story ended with a hopeful but realistic view. Peace had been achieved, not through the absence of conflict, but through the presence of ongoing dialogue and compromise, a lesson for any who dared to dream of a better universe.